Doing it. Hello and welcome. Let me just I'm going to run some tests on some things to make sure that we are in fact recording because I've never done a live stream before, and so there's a good chance that I have not done it successfully. Um okay, it looks like we're running. So that's good. Yee! Hello, welcome. Welcome to Don't Watch It Night's first whatchamacallit, creepy cocktail hour. This is creepy cocktail hour number 1. So what we are doing right now is a little bit of a check-in because we've all collectively survived, hopefully, we've all collectively survived January. We're finally at the end. This is the world's longest month, and it's been, for many of us, a terrible start to the new year. So here's hoping we catch some relief and can have a better February, and maybe 2025 will start looking up at some point. But hi, welcome. So we are going to get started with our creepy cocktail hour with a cocktail. So originally, what I was going to do was I was going to make myself a Gibson martini, which is my go-to classic martini. I like a dry martini. I'm not somebody who can do, I mean, I've had a dirty martini and I've really tried. I've really strived to be an adult who can handle olives, but all these years later, here I am in my 40s. I still don't like green olives. I just don't. I can do black olives in food, like on pizza and stuff, but olives are just not my cup of tea. However, in a Gibson martini, which features a cocktail onion, I'm a big fan of those. I'm a big fan of pickled things. So a cocktail onion is a pickled onion essentially, and I can totally eat that. I'm a fan of those. But that's not what we're doing today. I decided at the 11th hour, we're going in a different direction. So today, I'm going to be making a favorite go-to of mine called a Fitzgerald cocktail. It calls for gin, lemon juice. I don't know if you can do it with vodka. I think I think traditionally it's gin, lemon juice, simple syrup, and some Angostura bitters. And I was doing some reading on this exact cocktail earlier today, and I didn't realize. I think traditionally you're supposed to serve it up in an old fashioned glass, and I've never done that. I've always served it up in like a martini glass, or I think like today I'm doing a kind of a coupe glass. So that's what we're going to be doing today with a minor adjustment. So I've pre-measured my lemon juice and Angostura bitters because Angostura bitters, it can get messy, and I didn't want to have a accident on screen. That would be tragic. Um, Angostura bitters can also stain, so I didn't want to go that route. But so I did all of that beforehand. But I have my gin here. I'm working with just Hendrix. Hendrix is my go-to for dry gins. Like I said, I prefer a dry gin. I'm a fan of more botanical juniper forward gins as well. I've tried a couple, but in terms of, like I said, in terms of a martini, I'm going to go for a dry gin. If you know of good gins that you want to recommend, depending on when you find this video, when you watch it, let me know, because I'm always in the mood to try something new. So I don't know the exact recipe for Fitzgerald, like the proper recipe, but you can play with ratios. So it might be 2 parts gin, 1 part lemon juice, 1 part simple syrup. We don't do that. That would be too sweet for us. So we tend to do, and we modify it all the time, but I tend to do 2 ounces gin, half ounce lemon juice, half ounce simple syrup. And so that's what I'm going to do with my gin. I'm going to do 2 ounces of the gin. So I'm trying to do this on camera for you so you can see it. If I realize right now for this first cocktail hour, it's probably me by myself. Ah! See? Mistakes. Immediate mistakes. I can't talk and do this at the same time. I'll clean that up. Hang on. I'll clean that up. Okay. So 1 ounce there, 2 ounce there. I was going to say, if there's anybody on, feel free to say hello. And while you're doing that, I'm going to get a sponge. 1 second. thankfully, I was smart enough to do this with a drink, like a mat, so that if I did have spills, it wouldn't be all over the place. And so I'm okay. I didn't get any on the floor. I just sort of spilled on my mat, but that's fine. Okay. It's fine. And by the way, guys, if I happen to be shouting at you, I apologize. I don't have headphones in, so I can't hear myself. So I have no idea if I'm speaking too loud or too soft. Do let me know, and I will try to modulate my voice better. So hold on. Okay, so we have our gin, and normally we would do half ounce of simple syrup to the half ounce of lemon juice that's already in there. This is what I was going to tweak today. I'm trying, because I have some, I'm going to try Saint Germain elderflower liqueur as a stand-in for simple syrup, because this is pretty sweet. And as a matter of fact, if you do too much of this in any given cocktail, I have found it gives me a headache the next day. So I do a light hand with this. But um, I thought maybe this might be it might add an interesting flavor to this drink. So I'm subbing out my simple syrup for this, keeping it at a half ounce ratio. Um, and we'll see how it goes. I still can't believe I spilled on my first video, as I knew I would. I knew something was going to go wrong. That's fine. It's fine. Um, thank God I had the good sense to do the math. Okay, so that's done. Now, the thing to know about Saint Germain, it's a liqueur. So it's not, simple syrup is just sugar water. This means that I am adding additional alcohol to the drink, thus making it a little bit stronger, but not by much. This is half an ounce that I'm adding, so it's not going to be crazy stronger or anything to that effect. Okay, ice and then a glass which I had pre-chilled. Okay, I'm doing this in front of my fridge specifically for this purpose, so that I could do this all on screen for you. Feel a little bit like Sandra Lee whipping up her cocktails in the kitchen. There's a really funny, I'll have to find it and try to share it with you guys, but there's a really funny reel on Instagram that I saw over the holidays of her whipping up a bunch of holiday cocktails, and all of them are intensely strong. I think Sandra Lee was fond of a cocktail. And the comments to that video are hilarious, because it was just like, not a mixer in sight. Merry Christmas to all. Okay, anyway, here we're gonna do a shake. Last time I did this on a video, the cocktail shake didn't really pick up on the mic. Maybe I was too far away, so we'll try this. Maybe you'll hear it, maybe you won't. I like a very well chilled, well shaken beverage. Okay, and then I have a pre-chilled glass. It is always nice. If I don't always think to do this ahead of time, but it is always nice if you do think to do it ahead of time, to pre-chill your glass. It just sort of, I don't know, it's just nice. You know, it's so weird. I did Angostura bitters in here, and I don't feel like you can really see it. Normally the drink would be a little bit pinker, but that looks pretty yellow, doesn't it? Yeah. I know I did, though. I remember seeing myself do it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Cheers. Cheers. Happy Friday, if you're watching this on Friday. That's tasty. That's tasty. I think what I prefer is, if you do a simple syrup, it's going to be a little bit sweeter. So this isn't as sweet. Definitely what's coming through is the lemon, but still good. Still plenty good. So that's my beverage. Hopefully you're drinking something too, or not. Maybe you're drinking wine. Maybe you're having water. Maybe you're having a mocktail. Hopefully you're doing something fun for yourself. Maybe it's a cup of tea, something fun for yourself to relax and take care of yourself on a Friday, to kiss this godforsaken month goodbye. So that's done. now we're going to get on to talking about other stuff that's been going on with us. By the way, I meant to talk about this prior to spilling gin all over my countertop, and I forgot. You're here because obviously you listen to Don't Watch at Night. But if you are new by chance to the podcast and you don't know what we're about, my name is Valerie. I host a podcast called Don't Watch at Night with my sister Veronica. And we've been going now for since middle of 2023. So we're entering this summer will mark 2 years of podcasting, and which is exciting. And we got this podcast started as a way to focus on Spanish language horror and Latin American horror to kind of lift up that little niche of films and books by those artists because we are Latina ourselves, but also because at least stateside, the Latine population, that particular demographic, is a huge supporter of the film industry from a financial perspective. I mean, we're put butts in seats consistently, and we show up consistently for horror films. We're big fans of horror, and there's whole studies and reporting that's been done on this, and we like to talk about that periodically on the show from time to time. So, yeah, it's just a way for us to sort of explore those films, those books by Spanish language directors, Spanish language writers. So yeah, we've been going for, like I said, since summer of 2023. We're having a blast. We're doing a lot of fun stuff. We just did our book club episode. We have a book club on the podcast, and so every couple of months we have a episode dedicated to a book that we picked out, months prior, and we always announce those picks on the show so that you have a chance to read along with us and then listen in on book club episode time. We just did our episode on Extended Stay by Juan Martinez, a, a great read, an amazing book. The discussion was really really wonderful. We were joined by our friend Perla Caballero, PX Caballero, on social media. She's a book girly like we are, and she also runs a book club chapter out of Seattle, where she's based. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, you can find it on Spotify or other places where you listen to podcasts. But it's really great. The book kind of has shining elements to it, and the reason I bring it up is because it's kind of relevant to what we're going to be talking today. We're going to be talking about today for our first creepy cocktail hour. So, the other thing, I guess that leads me right into this next thing, I should say. We're going to be talking a little bit about another creepy hotel. Extended Stay kind of revolves around the story of this hotel that isn't quite at what it seems. There's lots of sinister things going on in there. I don't want to give too much away, but you know, that's a big key part of the story, is a hotel based out of Vegas. Um, we're going to be talking about an actual hotel based here in Texas, where I am at, called the Colonial Hotel, which is located in Brownsville, Texas. And Brownsville, Texas it sits in Cameron County. Cameron County is down in what's called the Rio Grande Valley, or Rio Grande Valley, here in Texas, south. Harlingen is also part of Cameron County, which is where Veronica's and my parents are from. We have a lot of family still down in the valley. We have a family in Brownsville. So if they watch this video at some point, hello, cousins. But the Colonial Hotel is, I don't have it right up in front of me, but it's an old hotel with a haunted history. So my mom bought me this book a while back. It's written by a man named David Bowles, who is an associate professor for the University of Texas down in Brownsville, or at least he was. I don't know if he still is. I'm sure that he still is, but at the time of this publication of this book, he was. So this is a haunted America book called Ghosts of the Rio Grande Valley. But I also have other resources that I looked at, online resources that I looked at, that I will, of course, link for you guys in the comments on this video. We always try to share out our resources so that you can go do deeper dives and explore the topics we cover more on your own than we can cover on the show or in a live stream like this. So, Um, let's see. I don't think I think in all of the writing here on this in this book on this hotel, there isn't a mention of when it got built. So if anybody happens to know when the Colonial Hotel was built in Brownsville, Texas, let me know. But in the book, he talks a little bit about the history of the region and specifically the area where this hotel was built. And there's a really great, like, short little blurb of an interview in on YouTube that we'll share for you guys with Professor Bowles talking about the area that this hotel was built on being a area occupied by Lipan Apache. So so let's see. I'm going to read to you a little. I'm not going to read to you the whole thing, but I'm going to read to you sections of the legend of this hotel. There's a specific room, room 101. If you're brave enough to venture down and go check this hotel out, room 101 has kind of been the focal point of the hauntings, the paranormal activity, the disturbances. So here it says, on Levee Street in downtown Brownsville stands an impressive brick edifice with an interesting reputation, the Colonial Hotel, still popular despite being very haunted. Many tales have been told down the years of unexplained activity in the hotel, I'm sorry. Room 101 has become a focal point for supernatural occurrences. Multiple multiple instances of people taking their own life appear to have left a frightening spiritual mark. Guests claim that unseen hands have grabbed at them from beneath the sheets. Apparitions have been repeatedly cited, including the figure of an infant whose cries can also be heard from time to time. And then he talks a little bit about more on the lore, the legend. Years ago, a professor from Mexico was visiting the University of Texas at Brownsville. He stayed at the hotel with his wife while giving a series of talks on colonial history. And so the story goes on to tell of, like, their first night that they slept in the room. They were both troubled by these strange, very realistic, very disturbing nightmares. And then they didn't talk about it the next day over breakfast, which is always a mistake. If you experience something sinister or creepy, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with others. Always tell a buddy. Always take a buddy. Always tell a buddy. No matter what you're doing or what you're seeing. So they don't talk about it the next day. They just sort of go on about their day, shrug it off as maybe it was a one off, and let it be that. So they go on. They have a nice positive day. It says they visit Gladys Porter Zoo, very well known zoo in Brownsville, beautiful zoo. I've not been, but my cousins have been, and they always talk highly of it. So their dreams continued, however, and they became increasingly more and more terrifying. Specifically, they would dream of their beloved dead. So people that they knew in their lives, maybe former family members who passed, they returned in their dreams pallid and terrifying, calling to them, urging them to join the growing family in the vast beyond. So urging them, if I am to understand that correctly, to take their own life. And then when they awakened, they would be drained and depressed. It was really sort of have taking its toll, obviously, on them emotionally and mentally. So finally, that second day, his wife says, "Something's wrong with this room," and he says, "Yeah, I know." And so they sort of agree that, like, maybe they can stick it out. They've just got one more night, on their trip, and so maybe they can just rough it out for one more night and then be gone the next day. Well, it seems like that night they go out, they come back after an evening being hosted by people associated with the University of Texas at Brownsville. They come back to their room. They're a little tipsy, a little tired, and they're getting ready for bed. And then she sees something and she calls to her husband, and he walks around toward the bed. And at that moment, a pair of hands shot out and seized his ankles, knocking him flat on his back. And the hands start to drag him underneath the bed. So he's screaming, she's screaming. He's like, help me get out of here. She has to come around and try to pull him out of the bed. Like at a certain point, from the torso up is all that's left, and the rest of him has been sucked in down into whatever. At one point, he looks underneath the bed to see what it is, and he can't see anything. He just sees this black abyss. It says, I don't know where it says exactly, but it's just like as dark as anything. So she's able to successfully pull him out from the bed, but the respite was momentary. A thudding sound grew louder and louder, and soon it was joined by a horrible, muffled moaning. Then, rolling and flopping its way around the foot of the bed, a headless, limbless corpse advanced on the man and his wife like some abominable, unspeakable worm. So, so they're like, "What the hell?" They're freaking out. He makes reference to the lore, the legend being told here makes reference to something that the Nahua tribes had a word for it that essentially meant human bundle. And supposedly, according to the professor in this story, not the professor who wrote this, but the professor in this story, supposedly it would appear to people rolling around just like that, like this limbless, headless corpse of a thing. Warriors proved their bravery by standing firm in front of it and not fleeing. And she says, "Well, you're no warrior." And he says, "I know I'm not." And so they're like, "We got to get out of here." I think at one point it sounds like she turns, and this is the part that to me, when I was reading this, sort of felt straight out of The Shining, out of Stephen King's The Shining. At one point, she turns towards the bathroom, and there in the bathroom, she sees a bloated, bruised specter rising from the bathtub, its wrists bloody from gaping slits. It lifted its arms as if in supplication and stepped out, its right foot leaving a reddish black smear of gore on the tile. Its eyes were inhuman, round and wide like those of a nocturnal bird of prey. So that kind of reminded me of the bathroom scene in the Shining. I never read the book, but I am a huge fan of the movie. So, yeah, big big bathroom scene moment for those of you who are familiar with the book and the movie. Um, the professor obviously pulls away from that, jerks open the door, ready to hurry out of the room entirely. But coming toward them, toddling toward them, came a baby, its skin blue and mottled, crying inconsolably. It was followed by its mother. And, trigger warning, some of this stuff reads a little graphic. It was followed by its mother with half her face blown away by a gunshot wound. So at this point, he's like, "Shut your eyes. I'm pulling us out of this room. We have to get out of here." They are able to escape. And then they go downstairs where the person working concierge is like, "You came from room 101, didn't you?" And they said, "Yeah." And he says like, "Well, tell you what, we'll set you up with another room." The professor, talks about how this, and this is also something that Professor Bowles talks about in the little blurb interview that I'm going to link for you guys, talks about how these disturbances are kind of described as something called a ghost sickness. So, um, in the interview that the professor gives on in the YouTube link, he talks about ghost sickness as being sort of like sometimes there might be a haunting where the spirit can, for lack of a better word, invade a person's uh, mental faculties, invade their emotions, invade their spirit essentially, and fill them with dread, fill them with fears, fill them with despair. And so the theory being that this would happen to people who would stay in the room over the years, and some of those people would be driven to such madness, such despair, that they might uh, lose sanity, they might hurt themselves, they might take their own lives, things of that nature. So ghost sickness is kind of how that's described. And so the man says, "We're not staying here. We're done. We're gonna go." And that's the end of that story. So it's I've never been to the Colonial Hotel, but really cool history. And like I said, when I read about it, I was just like, this feels like an actual hotel right out of The Shining. So I thought it was really relevant given the book that we just read, Extended Stay. If anybody has things to share, maybe you're from the area, maybe you know the hotel really well. Feel free to share that with us. But I just thought that was really, really interesting, and I wanted to mention that. And it's also like, I think he said, Professor Bowles said in the interview that it's the second most haunted place in Texas. I'm curious to know what the first is. I don't know that off the top of my head. But another resource that I looked at about this hotel said that it's the second most haunted hotel in the country potentially. So I don't know if I have that stat right, but very cool if true. So yeah, I just thought we might hop on today and talk a little bit about that creepy place. Um and yeah, like I said, I'll link that resource for you guys. I'll link that interview for you guys. The book is Ghosts of the Rio Grande Valley by David Bowles, illustrations by Jose Melendez. This is one of those Haunted America books, and I went to dig around to see what other Haunted America books there are, and I didn't find anything, but also I didn't do like deep digging, so I can dig some more and try to share that with you guys. But yeah, there's that story that I pinned. There's also another really cool story that I'm not going to get into today, but it's the Wailing Woman of San Benito, and that was a really cool story. Yeah, so lots of good stuff in that book. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, like I said, if you're watching this from YouTube and you're new to the podcast, you can find us on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also join us on Patreon. This is this first initial Creepy Cocktail Hour is we're putting it out there for anybody, but this will be these are Patreon perks that we have for the folks who want to show their support by joining our Patreon. We do one monthly Creepy Cocktail Hour, in addition to we're going to be doing our first live stream later in February. We are also going to be doing some watch parties, things like that later down the line. And then we also do upload video episodes once a month for you to watch over through Patreon. Please tell your friends, invite your creepy cohorts, invite your creepy family to join us and be part of it with us. If you're watching this today, Friday the 31st, then we've got a new episode that's going to post on Monday, February 3rd, where we're going to be talking about Los Ojos de Julia, which came out in 2010. So this movie is available right now over on Amazon Prime. And if you haven't watched it yet, you should watch it. I don't want to like give too much away, but Veronica and I really liked it, and we have a really fun episode planned for you on Monday. So watch it and then join us on the episode to look at that. I don't know if anybody has anything that they wanted to share either. If you've read Extended Stay by Juan Martinez, um, and you want to share what you thought of it, please do. I'm going to take a drink of my beverage, a sip of my beverage. If you've watched Los Ojos de Julia and you want to share what you thought of that, please do. Yeah, it's a little tart. I probably shouldn't have skipped the simple syrup. I thought that this would kind of be sweet enough. It's not really kicking it, but it's not hitting is what I should say, is what the youth say. So, if nobody has anything to share regarding the book or the movie that we have an episode coming up on Monday about, then I guess we can go ahead and wrap it. Normally, we would aim to go for a full hour, but on this first creepy cocktail hour, it's just me flying solo. So, in future ones, I hope to have Veronica join me because she always adds a fun component to the conversation. And I can also bring additional creepy topics to cover. I think I've hit everything that I know personally about the Colonial Hotel, but let me see if I can pull up if the photo that they have of it is worth showing you. This is I don't know if you'll be able to see it. This is the Colonial Hotel as it sits in Brownsville. So it's, I don't know how old it is. I don't know when it was built, but downtown Brownsville is pretty cool, as is downtown Harlingen. My dad used to work in downtown Harlingen, so I've I've been that way. He takes us that way. We do have some stuff in this chat, which I'm just now noticing. Oh wow! So okay, so I had messaged someone very special that to watch Los Ojos de Julia. What did you think of it? I told her horror movies are not her jam, but I told her she could handle it, and so apparently she already watched it, which is great. What did you? If you don't mind sharing in comments, tell me what you thought of it. Also, what's interesting is I didn't see. Oh, there it is. I didn't see your chat come up on YouTube, but I'm seeing it on Riverside. So thank you for commenting, and I'm glad that I had the wherewithal to check. Did you like the movie, or was it too spooky? One of the running, kind of the impetus? No, that's not the word I'm looking for. The reason we went with Don't Watch at Night as a name for our show is because when we first started our podcast, um, our mom specifically, and my and our dad, huge supporters of us. They listen to all of our episodes, of course, but she can't handle scary movies, and so but she would really, try her hardest to keep up with whatever movie we were talking about on any given week. And so she would ask, if she could handle the film that we'd chosen that particular week, and I would tell her yay or nay on that. Sometimes I would tell her, yeah, you can probably do it. Don't watch it at night. Like that's, there are some movies that are just not a good idea, and I knew would keep her up all night. So, yeah, that's sort of where that comes from. It's sort of a nod to our mom a little bit. Our father came up with that idea. Actually, we were searching for a show name, and he pitched that. So, okay, well, this person's not responding to let me know how they liked Los Ojos de Julia. Hopefully, they liked it. Hopefully, it wasn't too scary for them. And I guess if we don't have any other questions or comments, then we might be able to wrap it up a little bit early. I'm going to have to deal with my sticky countertop at some point. Next time we do this, I won't spill gin all over the countertop. I'll be a little bit more organized with. And I considered like pre-measuring all of this stuff out so that it would all be done and I'm just adding ingredients. But then I thought, well, where's the fun in that? So thus I had, my bottles out here and I was going to measure it all out in front of you. And now I know maybe I can't do that. Maybe the best thing for me to do is to have everything pre-measured out. Also, next time I think maybe I'll just have a glass of wine and keep it simple. So, all right. Well, thank you guys. It was good to do our first live stream. We successfully live streamed, and that's what matters. I was concerned that we were not going to even pull that off. So we did great. And we're only going to get better. We're only going to keep going up and up and up. So I hope you'll tune in next time. I hope that Veronica will be with us next time, and we will have more fun, creepy conversation for you. And that's it. I hope you have a great weekend. Tune in on Monday, and we will see you next time.